This is my theory of how the Peacemaker Season 2 finale has set up the rest of the DCU. So at the end of the episode, we see Chris get abducted by Argus and dropped off at their new metahuman prison planet called Salvation. And this is where things get crazy because James Gunn has confirmed that the next chapter, the big picture of the DCU, is inspired by the Salvation Run comic book miniseries from 2007 and 2008. And this is where my theory, my interpretation of where I believe this storyline is going begins. Because at the end of the episode, we hear all these creatures around the woods. You know, Salvation on the surface looks like basically the middle of Wyoming, pretty peaceful. But in the comics, it is a terrifying place filled with ravenous creatures, technologically advanced traps, and so much more. And I think that's what Chris is going to discover about this world that he has been stranded on. And as he's learning how to survive on Salvation, I think he's going to be encountering some new friends because Lex Luthor and Rick Flag Sr., I believe, will continue to collaborate and send metahumans to this prison. And this is how I think a lot of villains will be introduced into the DCU. Obviously, in the comics, the Joker's there, Lex Luthor's there, the Rogues are there. Some of the bigger names ones I don't think will be introduced in this way, but some smaller name, more obscure villains, I believe could absolutely be introduced on Salvation. And I think the relationship between Lex and Rick Flag Sr. is what is going to bridge the Peacemaker Season 2 finale and Man of Tomorrow. And the reason I think James Gunn referred to Peacemaker Season 2 as a prequel to Man of Tomorrow is absolutely insane. I think we're going to find out that Salvation is a training world for Darkseid and his planet Apocalypse, and he's going to be introduced as the new big bad of the DCU and of Man of Tomorrow. And this is canon in the comics, I didn't just make this up. I think this is what is going to drive Superman to seeking out Lex Luthor because he has been actively collaborating with Rick Flag Sr. on the project that has brought Darkseid into being the villain of the DCU, so Superman will need to talk to Lex. And this is definitely a way that I could see Peacemaker being in Man of Tomorrow and maybe even the rest of the 11th Street kids. After all, James Gunn has said Peacemaker will be instrumental to the future of the DCU, so I think he'll be a big part of Man of Tomorrow. And I haven't forgotten about the 11th Street Kids. I think they're going to be equally as important as Peacemaker in the future of the DCU. They all form the Checkmate Agency, an agency dedicated to making the world better and keeping Argus in check. I think the show that James Gunn has said many of the Peacemaker characters will continue into is actually going to be a Checkmate show. And I think the Checkmate show is the HBO Max show that has been greenlit but not officially announced at DC Studios. So my theory is we'll see Peacemaker and the rest of the 11th Street Kids in Man of Tomorrow briefly in that storyline. They'll be important to that storyline, introducing Darkseid. And the aftermath of their appearance in Man of Tomorrow will be explored in the Checkmate show. Kind of like how Peacemaker Season 2 released just a few months after Superman, I think that's going to happen again in 2027. So that is my final prediction. The world of Salvation will be the bridge between Peacemaker Season 2 and Man of Tomorrow, introducing Darkseid as the main villain, and then we will get the Checkmate show directly after the events of Man of Tomorrow, which will follow up more in-depth with the cast of Peacemaker.